Chapter 1: The Illusion of Time and the Compression of Reality. Time, as we perceive it, is not a fixed or objective reality, it is a subjective construct deeply tied to consciousness. In the ancient world, time was cyclical, rooted in seasons, celestial movements, and spiritual rhythms. Modern civilization, however, has adopted a linear and mechanized view of time, divided into seconds, minutes, and hours, governed by the ticking of artificial clocks rather than the natural flow of life. But now, more than ever, people report the sensation that time is accelerating. Days feel shorter, weeks pass in a blur, and years seem to vanish in the blink of an eye. This phenomenon isn't just psychological, it's deeply spiritual. It reflects a collective shift in consciousness, one that is moving us away from dense, material reality and toward higher vibrational awareness. Ancient mystics and esoteric traditions long spoke of the end of days not as a cataclysm, but as a moment when the veil of time would dissolve. The Mayans, for instance, marked the end of a great cycle around 2012, suggesting not destruction, but transformation. Similarly, the Hopi speak of a time when the world will move from the fourth world to the fifth, a dimensional leap in awareness. When time begins to fold upon itself, we begin to experience synchronicities, déjà vu, and overlapping timelines. These are not glitches, but signals from the deeper structure of the universe, indications that the linear story is dissolving and a multidimensional reality is emerging. Scientific voices have also entered this space. The simulation hypothesis, as proposed by thinkers like Nick Bostrom, suggests that what we perceive as reality is in fact code, algorithmically sustained experience. In such a system, time is a parameter, not a law. It can be slowed, compressed, reset. As we accelerate toward what many describe as a collective awakening, we must come to terms with the illusion of linearity. Time is not a river flowing from past to future. It is a vast ocean, and we are merely dipping our consciousness into specific points of that ocean. To truly understand this shift, we must let go of the mechanical perception of time and embrace sacred time, kairos over chronos. Sacred time is not about measurement, it is about presence. It is the eternal now, the infinite stillness between breaths, the quiet moment where all realities intersect. In this chapter, we begin our journey into the deeper layers of awakening by acknowledging that time, as we know it, is dissolving. What follows is not chaos, but revelation. Not the end, but the beginning of perception beyond time. Chapter 2: The Shattering of Reality and the Death of Consensus. In every age, humanity builds a shared structure of meaning, a consensus reality that defines what is true, acceptable, and possible. For much of the modern era, this consensus was built on science, institutional authority, and a linear worldview. It gave people a sense of order, predictability, and stability. But in the 21st century, this structure has begun to fracture, violently and visibly. We are witnessing a collapse not just of belief systems, but of the very scaffolding of shared perception. What once seemed like objective truth is now filtered through bias, algorithms, and tribal ideologies. Social media has shattered the collective lens, replacing it with fragmented echo chambers. Artificial intelligence now generates content indistinguishable from human thought, further eroding the boundary between real and unreal. But this isn't merely a technological problem, it is a metaphysical rupture. Esoteric traditions have long spoken of a time when the veils would thin, and humanity would be confronted with a higher truth. The death of consensus is not the end of society, but the beginning of individual awakening. When external authority collapses, internal guidance must rise. This chapter delves into the nature of reality as a mirror. As we move further into the age of apocalypse, not as destruction, but as unveiling, we are being forced to look inward. Reality no longer provides certainty, it demands responsibility. Every person becomes the author of their own myth, their own truth. The death of consensus is painful. It births confusion, disorientation, and even nihilism. But like all great initiations, it is necessary. The shattering of the external illusion is the prerequisite for the revelation of the inner world. Just as the tower must fall in the tarot before enlightenment can occur, so too must the crumbling worldviews make way for higher awareness. At its core, this moment in history is a spiritual test. Can we navigate a world without fixed anchors? Can we find our inner compass amid the storm? Or will we cling to outdated paradigms and suffer in their collapse? The answer lies in our willingness to embrace paradox, to sit in the unknown, and to see through the illusion not with fear, but with curiosity. Reality is not dying, it is being reborn, refracted through countless lenses, waiting for us to choose our own clarity. In this chapter, we uncover the sacred opportunity hidden in the collapse of consensus, the call to awaken as sovereign creators of reality in a world without consensus gods. Chapter 3, Melchizedek, Al-Khidr, and the Hidden Guides of the Final Age. Across cultures and epochs, stories have emerged of mysterious figures who appear in times of great transition. They do not arrive with armies, nor do they seek worship or political power. Instead, they come silently, guiding individuals on paths of transformation, often disappearing as suddenly as they appeared. Among these figures, two stand out: Melchizedek and Al-Khidr. Melchizedek, the priest-king of Salem, appears in the biblical narrative without origin or end. Described as without father or mother, without beginning of days or end of life, he becomes a symbol of eternal wisdom, a bridge between heaven and earth. Esoteric traditions, including the Kabbalistic and Rosicrucian schools, view him not as a man, but as a divine intelligence incarnate. Al-Khidr, known in Islamic mysticism as the Green One, is another enigmatic figure. Said to possess knowledge directly from the divine, he is the guide of Moses in the Quran, leading the prophet through bewildering trials that defy logic but reveal deeper truths. Al-Khidr is not bound by time. He appears when needed, often at the edges of despair, to redirect seekers toward hidden meanings. In this chapter, we examine how these archetypal guides function in the current age, what some esotericists call the end times, or the threshold age. As the world spirals through crisis and awakening, the presence of such beings becomes more relevant than ever. They are not saviors in the traditional sense, but mirrors, reflecting back the soul's deepest potential and its hidden fears. These guides are not confined to any religion. Hermes Trismegistus in Hellenistic Egypt, Saint Germain in European occultism, and even indigenous shamans all represent this same current of eternal mentorship. They are expressions of a higher intelligence that intervenes not through force, but through initiation. We also explore the idea that these beings may not be entirely human in the conventional sense. Some traditions speak of them as ultra-terrestrial, beings that originate from higher dimensions or densities of consciousness. Their appearance in our realm serves as a disruption to the ordinary flow of time and thought, a divine glitch meant to awaken us. Ultimately, Melchizedek, Al-Khidr, and their kin are not external masters but internal activators. They arrive in dreams, synchronicities, visions, or even disguised as ordinary people. Their mission is singular: to prepare the soul for its own sovereignty, to guide it through the veil of forgetting back into remembrance. This chapter is an invitation to recognize that in moments of chaos, a quiet guide may already be beside you, watching, waiting, and ready to illuminate the path you were always meant to walk. Chapter 4: Apocalypse as Awakening, the Return of the Inner Light. The word apocalypse conjures images of chaos, destruction, and the end of the world. But this image is a distortion, a shadow cast over a much deeper and more profound truth. The root of the word apocalypse is the Greek apokalypsis, meaning unveiling or revelation. What if the true apocalypse is not about annihilation, but about illumination? What if the structures that are falling are not the world itself, but the illusions that blind us from perceiving the real? We live in a time of massive change. Institutions are crumbling, belief systems are imploding, and personal identities are dissolving. For many, this produces fear, anxiety, and despair. But from another perspective, it is the necessary shedding of false skins. Just as a snake must shed its old skin to grow, so too must humanity shed outdated paradigms to ascend into a new state of being. This chapter reframes the apocalypse as a rite of passage, a spiritual initiation on a global scale. Ancient traditions speak of great floods, fires, and cataclysms not as punishment, but as cosmic resets. These events mark the dissolution of corrupted cycles and the birth of higher orders of consciousness. The fall is necessary for the rise to take place. As veils lift, hidden knowledge comes into the light. People begin to question narratives once accepted without doubt. History, science, religion, and even language itself are re-examined. The apocalypse becomes a time of intense revelation. It is the moment the soul remembers what it has always known but forgotten under the hypnosis of culture. Esoterically, the inner light, often represented as the divine spark within each being, returns to the forefront. This light is not new, it was merely obscured. The apocalypse, then, is not about external fire and ruin, but the internal ignition of divine remembrance. It is the reclaiming of inner sovereignty. This chapter also explores the psychological stages of apocalypse: denial, resistance, despair, surrender, and awakening. Just like any personal transformation, global awakening moves through painful contractions. The dark night of the soul is not a myth, it is the threshold every being must pass through to access their higher potential. The return of the inner light signals the rise of the heart as the new center of knowing. No longer do we rely solely on mind, intellect, or ideology. Instead, intuition, compassion, and coherence become guiding principles. The apocalypse awakens the sacred intelligence of the soul. Ultimately, this chapter reveals that the apocalypse is not the end, it is the beginning. Not of destruction, but of perception. Not of finality, but of infinite recreation. The light has always been within us, waiting to be remembered. And now, as the outer world collapses, that light returns, not as a savior, but as our truest self. Chapter 5: The Simulated Dome and the Architecture of Divine Containment. Throughout history, countless civilizations have depicted the world not as a spinning sphere in infinite space, but as a flat or stable foundation beneath a great celestial dome. From Babylon to ancient Israel, from Norse mythologies to Vedic cosmology, the image of a firmament, an overarching dome that separates the divine from the earthly, has persisted. In modern times, this model has been dismissed as primitive or symbolic. But what if it contains a deeper truth? What if we are living not on a planet, but within a designed realm? This chapter explores the metaphysical and esoteric implications of the dome model as it relates to modern simulation theory. In this framework, the Earth is not necessarily flat, but it is enclosed, defined by energetic boundaries rather than gravitational ones. The sky above is not infinite, it is a projection, a vibrational membrane separating dimensional states. The dome is not just a physical structure, it is a containment field, a divine architecture intended to facilitate experience, growth, and spiritual evolution. It ensures that the realm operates according to specific laws of physics and consciousness. It is a cosmic interface, a programmable boundary through which light, frequency, and information are filtered. In simulation theory, every environment must have limits, rendering zones, event triggers, coded constraints. Our universe behaves suspiciously like a program. Quantum indeterminacy, the observer effect, fractal geometry, and digital physics all suggest a computational nature to reality. The dome, then, may be the outer boundary of the simulation, a horizon encoded with thresholds of perception. Esoteric traditions align with this. The Kabbalistic tree of life ends in Malkuth, the kingdom, the material plane, encased within layers of hidden heavens. The ancient Hebrews believed the firmament divided the waters above from those below, a divine curtain of sorts. In Islamic mysticism, the seven heavens exist within concentric levels, each domed and veiled. But perhaps the most profound idea is this: the dome is not a prison, but a sacred container. It is a chrysalis, nurturing the soul until it is ready to ascend. The barriers we perceive are not obstacles, they are initiations. To confront the dome is to confront the limits of one's own belief. This final chapter posits that awakening means recognizing the design, not to escape it, but to transcend it internally. The dome does not need to fall, rather, it becomes transparent as we evolve. Reality is both real and illusion, both playground and temple. Ultimately, the simulated dome is a reflection of the divine mind, a geometrically elegant, energetically precise field in which the soul awakens to its origin. To understand this is to realize that we are not trapped in a false world, we are enveloped in a sacred dream, one encoded with purpose, pattern, and infinite possibility. Playground and temple. Ultimately, the simulated dome is a reflection of the divine mind, a geometrically elegant, energetically precise field in which the soul awakens to its origin. To understand this is to realize that we are not trapped in a false world, we are enveloped in a sacred dream, one encoded with purpose, pattern, and infinite possibility.